What's the purpose of this item I found in an antique store? The tag just said chrome gun, and there's a number etched into the handle. I'd never seen anything like it before, so I bought it out of curiosity. Could it be some kind of space-age toy from the 1960s? What you found is a vintage automotive timing light, a tool used to precisely adjust the ignition timing on older gasoline engines. When connected to a car's battery and ignition system, the device would flash a strobe light in perfect sync with the engine's firing, making a spinning timing mark on the engine appear frozen in place. This allowed mechanics to set the ignition timing accurately for better performance, fuel economy, and engine longevity. These timing lights were often shaped like ray guns with a chrome body, pistol grip, and a trigger that activated the flash. Inside it likely contains a xenon strobe tube powered by the car's battery, along with an inductive pickup clamp that senses the ignition pulse from the spark plug wire. Tools like this became common in American garages during the post-war car boom when DIY car maintenance was on the rise. I was given this item for a marketing project, but I have no idea what it is. It looks like an electric appliance with 8 small metal cups and a cord. Could it be some kind of mini muffin maker? What you found is a wax melter palette, a tool designed to safely melt small amounts of wax for art projects like encaustic painting, batik, and crayon-based crafts. It was invented in the 1960s by 2 American art teachers who wanted a simple and safe way for students to reuse broken crayons. The device plugs into a standard outlet and evenly heats 10 small metal cups, allowing artists to melt wax in multiple colors at once. Unlike hot plates or stovetops, the wax melter palette maintains a steady low temperature, so the wax melts without burning. It's commonly used in classrooms and studios for painting with hot-colored wax, decorating eggs or candles, or doing wax-resist techniques on fabric. Some artists also use it to create crayon sculptures or recycle leftover wax into new crayons. I found this old mechanical tool that clamps to a table and has a crank and gear system. There are some markings on the body. Could it have been used to shape metal or something else? What you found is a Defiance hand crank pinker, a manual machine used to cut a zigzag edge on fabric. It was made in the United States in 1917 and mounted to a work table using a built-in clamp. Turning the crank rotated a serrated cutting wheel that pressed the fabric against a hardened anvil, producing what's known as a pinked edge, both decorative and practical as it helps prevent fraying. This particular model was built by the Defiance Button Machine Company, which specialized in tools for the sewing and tailoring industries. Machines like this were used by dressmakers, tailors, milliners, and even leather workers to quickly finish fabric edges. The pinked edge, cut in one smooth pass, was especially popular in the early 20th century for trimming hems, ribbons, and decorative seam allowances. The pinker operates using a clever gear system that multiplies the force from the crank, allowing it to cut everything from silk to leather without the blade needing to be sharp. I saw this strange-looking device on the back of a Memphis Light gas and water truck. It looked like a giant set of metal bolts or insulators mounted on a platform with ribbed cylinders sticking out in all directions. Does anyone know what it is? What you saw is a high-voltage sulfur hexafluoride circuit breaker, a massive switchgear component used in electrical substations to control and protect high-voltage power lines. The ribbed, screw-like structures on top are insulators, designed to keep the high-voltage current safely contained. Sulfur hexafluoride circuit breakers, also known as SF6 breakers, use this gas to extinguish electrical arcs when switching high-voltage currents, sometimes up to 500,000 volts. These devices are engineered to interrupt massive fault currents in a fraction of a second, helping prevent blackouts, equipment damage, or even explosions. They became widely adopted in the mid-20th century, replacing bulkier and more hazardous oil-filled systems. Their compact size and long service life made them a standard feature in substations around the world. I found this strange item in an old barn. It looks like a small wooden barrel that seems to be designed for burning something inside. There's a marking on the bottom where I can make out the letters HLD. The rest is too rusted to read. Does anyone know what this is? What you found is a vintage bee smoker, a tool used by beekeepers to calm honeybees with smoke while inspecting the hive or collecting honey. This particular model may have been made by the A.G. Woodman Company, a major manufacturer of Bingham-style smokers in the early 1900s. To use it, beekeepers would place smoldering fuel like burlap or dry grass inside the chamber, then squeeze the bellows to blow cool smoke out through the spout. The smoke masks the bees' alarm pheromones and encourages them to stay calm or move deeper into the hive. This made it safer for the beekeeper and less stressful for the bees. The bee smoker revolutionized beekeeping in the late 19th century. Before its invention, harvesting honey often meant destroying part of the colony. Thanks to American innovators like Moses Quimby and Tracy Bingham, the smoker became a standard piece of equipment, and the basic design hasn't changed much in over 140 years. I found this unusual object that looks like a scepter or ceremonial staff. It has a spiral, horn-shaped handle and a silver sphere mounted on top that spins. Does anyone know what it is? What you found is an Edwardian table cigar lighter, a type of decorative spirit lamp once used to light cigars in gentlemen's smoking rooms. The spiral handle is made from antelope horn, and the silver sphere on top serves as a reservoir for lighter fluid and holds a fabric wick. The orb is mounted on pivots, allowing it to stay upright no matter how the horn is tilted, keeping the flame steady and preventing fuel from spilling. Lighters like this became popular in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, during the height of cigar culture in Britain and the United States. Wealthy hosts often used them to impress their guests after dinner. These lighters were typically crafted by silversmiths in London and Sheffield, including well-known firms like Joseph Bram and Walker and Hall. I found this metal device at my grandparents' house. It has a lever that adds 1 to the total and a dial that advances all the digits in sync, going from something like 11,115 to 22,225. The base has 4 mounting holes, and there's a data plate labeled Durant Digital Instruments. What you found is a mechanical tally counter. It was used in industrial settings to keep track of repetitive operations, such as how many times a machine stamped, printed, or cycled through a process. This particular counter was manufactured by Durant Manufacturing Company, a Wisconsin-based firm founded in 1879 by Walter Durant. He originally designed his first counter to track flour sacks in a mill. By the early 1900s, Durant counters were found in all kinds of machinery, where accurate counting was essential for quality control and meeting production targets. We found this unusual object on display at the Royal Regalia Museum in Brunei. It was presented as a gift to the Sultan, but there was no explanation about what it actually is. It looks like a small wooden bench with a curved horn-shaped handle ending in a metal scoop or paddle. Does anyone know what this item was used for? What you found is a traditional coconut grater used to extract coconut flesh by hand. It's a common tool in many tropical cultures where coconuts are part of everyday cooking. The user would sit on the bench and press a halved coconut against the grater, shredding the white meat into fine flakes. These flakes are then squeezed for coconut milk or added to dishes like curries and desserts. The example you saw in the Royal Regalia Museum in Brunei was presented as a gift to the Sultan in the 1980s. While it may seem humble, these graters often carry deep cultural significance, symbolizing hospitality, abundance, and culinary tradition. In some regions, they're carved in the shape of animals or mythological creatures and are even included in wedding gifts or royal ceremonies. I found this heavy, insulated box at a garage sale. It has several removable canisters, each with a round metal plate on the bottom, and there's an empty space beneath them. The entire unit weighs about 50 pounds, has a latchable lid, and is about the size of a footlocker. Does anyone know what it is? What you've found is an early 20th century fireless cooker, a heavily insulated chest that was built to slow cook food without any ongoing flame or electricity. These devices became popular in kitchens between 1900 and the 1920s, well before electric slow cookers came along. The concept was simple. You would bring a pot of stew or porridge to a boil on the stove, then place it, still piping hot, into one of the metal canisters inside the cooker. Thanks to the thick insulation and, in some cases, a preheated soapstone disc placed underneath, the heat would be trapped inside. This allowed the food to continue cooking slowly for hours, without the need for additional fuel and without the risk of burning. Fireless cookers were so efficient that they were even used in World War I field kitchens and taken on royal expeditions. I came across this strange lantern while going through my uncle's things. Does anyone know what it was used for? What you've found is a flame safety lamp manufactured by the Wolf Safety Lamp Company of America. This type of lamp traces its origins back to Germany in the late 19th century, when engineer Karl Wolf developed an improved design that used naphtha as fuel, brighter than traditional oils, and included a built-in ignition mechanism that allowed miners to relight the flame without opening the lamp. This innovation quickly reached the United States. In 1913, the Wolf Safety Lamp Company of America was established in New York, and after World War I, the company began producing these lamps domestically for use in American coal mines. By the 1920s, the United States Bureau of Mines had officially approved the Wolf lamp as a permissible safety device. Miners used lamps like this not just for light, but also to detect dangerous gases. When methane was present, the flame would rise and form a distinct blue cap, signaling that ventilation was needed. If oxygen levels dropped too low, the flame would shrink or go out completely. Some versions even had etched lines on the glass to help measure gas concentrations more precisely. I found this unusual leather glove at an antique shop in Lidditz, Pennsylvania. It has a metal plate on the back, and I recently noticed the words, "The Boss," engraved on it, along with what looks like patented 1899. Does anyone know what this was used for? What you found is a corn husking glove, a specialized harvesting tool that was widely used in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Farmers wore these gloves to help strip the tough outer husks from ears of corn more quickly and with less strain. The leather body protected the hand, while a metal plate across the palm held a sharp spike or hook used to tear into the husk in a single motion. The glove you found is stamped "The Boss," which was one of the most popular brands of corn husking gloves in the United States. It was manufactured by the Boss Manufacturing Company of Kewanee, Illinois, a company that began producing these tools around 1893. Their design became so well known that the Boss became almost a generic name for this type of glove. During the peak years of hand-harvested corn, before mechanized combines took over in the 1940s, a glove like this was considered essential gear throughout the Corn Belt. Husking was tough work, and these gloves not only sped up the process, but also protected the user's hands from countless cuts. Skilled farmers could husk thousands of ears of corn each day, and there were even regional contests to see who could husk the most in a given time. That's how the term corn husker became so iconic, eventually giving Nebraska both its state nickname and the name of its football team. I bought this carved wooden chest from an antiques dealer who told me it came from India. Recently, when we moved it, I discovered a hidden drawer at the top that I hadn't noticed before. Does anyone know what kind of chest this is? The chest you bought is an antique Indian dowry chest, a beautifully carved wooden trunk once used to carry a bride's belongings into her new home after marriage. These chests, sometimes called damchia or bridal trunks, were handcrafted from hardwoods like teak or jackfruit and richly decorated with carvings, brass fittings, and iron strapping. The chest would typically be packed with fine linens, saris, jewelry, and utensils, all the essentials a woman would need to start her household. Once delivered to the groom's home, it became part of the daily living space, often used as a bench or table in addition to storage. Many families treated these chests as heirlooms, passing them down through generations. The hidden drawer you discovered is actually a common feature in high-quality dowry chests. Secret compartments were often built to conceal valuables like coins or jewelry as a practical security measure. I found this wooden-handled iron tool at an estate sale auction in Williamsburg, Virginia. It looks old, and I have no idea what it was used for. The iron end is pointed, and the curved wooden handle fits nicely in the hand. Does anyone know what it is? What you've found is an antique garden dibber, a simple but effective hand tool used for planting seeds, bulbs, or seedlings. This particular style, with its iron-pointed end and curved wooden handle, dates back to the late 19th or early 20th century and was designed to comfortably punch small holes in the soil. Gardeners would use it to plant rows of vegetables or flowers with consistent depth and spacing. Dibbers like this were widely used across Europe and North America before mechanized seeders became common. You'd press the pointed end into the ground, drop in the seed or bulb, and then lightly cover it with soil. What's that long vertical rod attached to the top of this streetlight? I saw it while walking through the city, and it clearly isn't part of the lamp itself. Does anyone know what it is? What you saw is a streetlight-mounted antenna, part of a wireless system used to manage traffic signals, street lighting, and other smart city functions. These slim antennas are connected to a control unit inside or near the lamp, and they transmit data to central operation systems. They help cities monitor traffic conditions, adjust signal timings, and remotely manage thousands of streetlights without the need for extra wiring. These antennas started becoming common in the early 2000s as more cities adopted smarter infrastructure. I saw this broken-down arcade machine and was wondering what game it used to be. Is it still possible to play it somehow? For size reference, that white object next to it is a trash can. What you found is an incredibly rare Japanese arcade game called Mario Undokai, which roughly translates to Mario Sports Day. It was released in 1993 by Banpresto under license from Nintendo, and it was never sold outside Japan. The game combined rhythm-based mini-games with light physical activity. Kids would jump or run in place on a special floor pad to make Mario and Yoshi perform on-screen challenges. Unlike most arcade machines of its time, this one wasn't about high scores or fighting. It was more like an early fitness game. Players could race, play rock, paper, scissors, or even complete quiz-style challenges, all by stepping on different parts of the pad. At the end of each session, the machine would reward them with a collectible Mario-themed trading card. I found this device at Goodwill for about 50 cents. It's mounted to the wall and has a crank handle. It looks like some kind of kitchen tool, but I'm not sure. Does anyone know what it is? What you've found is a vintage wall-mounted can opener made by Sears, known as the Single Action. These were sold during the 1960s and were designed to open metal cans with one smooth, continuous motion. Once mounted to the wall or a cabinet, the device stays in place. All you need to do is position a can beneath the cutting wheel, press the handle down, and turn the crank. Openers like this were a staple in mid-century American kitchens, especially in the post-World War II era, when canned foods became a regular part of daily meals. Sears offered these both in stores and through its popular mail-order catalogs. I came across this unusual hammer-like tool while cleaning out an old workshop. It has a wooden handle and a strange head with a curved notch on one side. Does anyone know what it was used for? What you've found is a vintage combination bar tool known as the Destapador Rompa Hielo Martillo. In English, that roughly translates to bottle opener icebreaker hammer. This compact gadget combines two functions in one, a hammer for cracking ice and a built-in bottle opener. Tools like this were often handed out as promotional items by breweries and ice companies, making them both practical and collectible. I found this strange metal object in a parking lot. It looks like a twisted iron ring with spiral ends and a long pin. The whole piece is about the size of a coin, and it seems old or hand-forged. What you've found is a penannular brooch, a type of ancient clothes fastener that dates back well over 1,000 years. This particular design with a twisted ring and a long pointed pin was used across Iron Age Europe and later refined by Celtic, Pictish, and Viking cultures. The brooch served both practical and symbolic roles. Everyday versions were typically made of bronze or iron, while high-status examples could be crafted in silver or gold and richly decorated with intricate patterns, gemstones, or enamel. Brooches like this were especially common in early medieval Ireland and Scotland, where they became closely associated with Celtic identity. In fact, they were so culturally significant that during the Victorian era, jewelers revived their design as a romantic symbol of heritage. I spotted this strange site near Agate, Utah, while exploring Google Maps. It's located in Grand County and has no visible markers or signs. What caught my eye were the large sections of different colors, but after searching online, I couldn't find any explanation. These are potash evaporation ponds, part of a working mine near Agate, Utah. They're used to extract potassium salts, which are essential ingredients in fertilizer. The process takes advantage of the desert's intense sunlight and dry air to evaporate water from underground brine, leaving behind crystallized potash. The vivid blue color isn't natural. A harmless dye is added to help the water absorb more sunlight and speed up evaporation. As the minerals begin to settle, the color of the ponds gradually changes, from deep blue to turquoise, and eventually to pale tan or white, as salts build up on the pond floor. In 1963, a deadly underground explosion occurred at the Moab mine, prompting a shift to safer above-ground methods. Since then, this solar evaporation technique has been used in Utah's potash industry. Today, the Moab facility is one of the few places in the United States still producing potash this way. I found this weird old bell in the Hudson Valley. It's about 11 inches high with a diameter of 8 or 9 inches at the lip. It seems to be made of brass. The bell has the initials VOC on two sides and nautical stars on the other two. Does anyone know what this bell is? The object you found is a bell from the Dutch East India Company, also known as VOC. Founded in 1602, this company was the world's first multinational corporation and played a central role in the golden age of the Netherlands. It amassed great wealth through its dominance in the spice trade, particularly in Southeast Asia. Made of bronze, this bell bears the initials of the company and was likely used aboard its ships or in one of its trading posts. Bells like this served as crucial signaling tools, marking important events such as the start of work shifts, mealtimes, or emergencies. The VOC was granted powers that extended far beyond trade, such as waging war, negotiating treaties, and establishing colonies. At its peak, the company controlled a large portion of global trade, particularly between Europe, Africa, and Asia, making it one of the most powerful corporations in history. Its influence shaped economies and politics worldwide. The legacy of the Dutch East India Company remains profound. VOC not only revolutionized trade, but also helped establish the foundations of modern corporate structures, including the invention of the stock market, which laid the groundwork for today's global financial system. A similar bell, dated 1747, was sold at auction for approximately $23,000, further emphasizing the historical and collectible value of such artifacts. I found this strange growth on a corn stalk. It was present on multiple stalks, with the larger ones about the size of my fist. The growths appeared mushroom-like and filled the space where the ear of corn should have grown. Does anyone know what this is? The object you found is corn smut, scientifically known as Ustilagomatus. It's a plant disease caused by a pathogenic fungus that forms galls on different parts of the corn plant, including the ears. These galls, while appearing strange, are actually edible and are considered a delicacy in Mexican cuisine, where they are known as huitlacoche. In Mexico, huitlacoche is highly prized and commonly used in dishes like quesadillas, tamales, and soups. The immature galls, harvested 2 to 3 weeks after infection, have a flavor that is often described as mushroom-like, sweet, savory, and earthy. It's been a part of Mexican food culture since the Aztec period. Though it has a long history in Mexican cooking, corn smut has often been seen as a blight in other parts of the world. However, there has been a growing interest in recent years, with more chefs experimenting with it in modern cuisine. Nutritionally, huitlacoche is rich in lysine, an essential amino acid, and contains levels of beta-glucans and proteins similar to other edible fungi. Though corn smut is considered a delicacy in certain cultures, it can present challenges for farmers, as it affects both the yield and quality of corn. Infected crops are often destroyed, although some farmers choose to use them to make silage, a type of fermented fodder used to feed livestock, especially during the winter months. I found this while cleaning up my parents' estate and have never seen anything like it before. It's rusted and definitely antique. My great-great-grandfather was a miner in Montana, so it's most likely his. I've come across a lot of very old things that my mother kept, including a vest worn by her great-grandfather, who was a jeweler and watchmaker. Can anyone identify what this is? The object you found is a miner's candle holder, a practical tool used by miners in the 19th and early 20th centuries to light their way underground. These holders were essential for providing illumination in the dark and often dangerous conditions of the mines. The design is simple yet effective, a long metal rod with a sharpened point at one end, which allowed it to be driven into timber or rock. The other end features a loop or hook to securely hold a candle. This design enabled miners to position their light exactly where it was needed most, improving both safety and efficiency while working underground. The design of these tools varied from region to region, depending on local needs and the makers. For example, in the Bisbee mining district, miners commonly used candle holders made by local manufacturer Nathan Varney. The shape of his candle holder closely resembles the one you found. The miner's candle holder was a vital part of mining history, especially during the gold rush, when reliable lighting tools were crucial, particularly in areas like Montana. However, with the introduction of electric lighting, these tools eventually became obsolete. While going through my grandfather's old belongings, I found this small metal object. It has a lid and a rotating handle. When I turn the handle, the mechanism inside moves. Does anyone know what this item is and what it was used for? The object you've found is a twin-plex razor stropper, a device designed to extend the life of double-edged safety razor blades by realigning and polishing their edges. The twin-plex razor stropper was invented by George Floyd and patented in 1910, and it was produced by the Twin-Plex Stamping Company. The company manufactured these devices from 1905 to 1955, along with other shaving-related products, such as razors, brushes, blades, and creams. To use it, you insert the razor blade into the device, ensuring it is securely held in place. By turning the rotating handle, the internal mechanism rotates the belts which press against the fixed razor blade. This motion helps to straighten the blade's edge, maintaining its sharpness, and prolonging its usability. After completing one cycle, the mechanism automatically reverses the blade's position to ensure even stropping. In the early and mid-20th century, razor blades were relatively expensive, and the twin-plex stropper provided consumers with an economical solution for maintaining their blades. However, with the advent of disposable razor blades and modern shaving technologies, the use of devices like the twin-plex dwindled to almost nothing. What are these small metal charms? They were found in an old trunk that was in my family from as early as the beginning of the 20th century in Tennessee. The small metal charms you found are likely old Cracker Jack prizes. Cracker Jack, the iconic American snack, has been including small mystery novelty items known as toy surprises in its boxes since 1914. Cracker Jack prizes came in many forms, including rings, figurines, booklets, stickers, temporary tattoos, and even decoder rings. In 1914, the company introduced its first baseball card prizes, featuring players from major leagues and the short-lived Federal League. Over time, Cracker Jack became famous for its collectible prizes, and many books have been written cataloging them, contributing to a substantial collector's market. The early toy prizes were often made in Japan until 1937, when the design of the toys shifted to American designer Cary Cloud, and the production was taken over by Tootsie Toy, a company that also produced Monopoly game markers. During World War II, due to material shortages, the toys were made of paper. Have any of you ever found a Cracker Jack prize, or perhaps even collected them over the years? Share your stories with us in the comments. I found this spinning, spiky object in my grandparents' kitchen. It looks like it might be some kind of sieve or grinder. Does anyone know what this thing is and how it was used? The object you found is a moule persil, a vintage French herb chopper and mill produced by Moulin Legume Company in the 1950s. This device was designed to finely chop herbs like parsley, chives, and tarragon, making it a common tool in mid-20th century kitchens. The moule persil has a rectangular body with a funnel-shaped top. When you turn the handle, the internal blades chop the herbs as they are pushed through the device. The finely chopped herbs then fall out, typically into a plate or a pot placed below. The device can be disassembled for easy cleaning, and the handle is adjustable to accommodate both right and left-handed users. The Moulin Legume Company, established in 1932, expanded its product line to include nutcrackers, pepper grinders, and other kitchen tools, reaching production levels of 30,000 units per day by 1951. I came across this strange orb while camping. It weighs around 5 pounds and feels like solid concrete. It's roughly twice the size of an orange and has a smooth surface. Does anyone know what it is? The object you found is most likely a ball from a bocce ball set. Bocce is an ancient Italian sport that dates back to the Roman Empire, where it was known as boccia. The modern version of the game is played with 8 large balls and 1 smaller ball, called the pallino or jack. The goal is to throw your team's balls as close as possible to the jack, while also trying to knock your opponent's balls further away. Bocce balls are typically made of heavy materials like resin or polished stone, giving them weight and durability. The game is usually played on a court that's between 60 and 90 feet long, with players taking turns throwing their balls towards the jack. The game is scored based on how many of your team's balls are closer to the jack than your opponent's, with the winner being the first to reach a set number of points, typically 12, 15, or 21. Historically, bocce was a game for the wealthy in Italy, but it eventually became a popular pastime for people of all classes, especially in the 19th and 20th centuries. It's now played worldwide, often in parks, clubs, and even in competitive leagues. I thought it was a pocket watch or a locket, but there's no clock or place for a picture. I found it in a box of things from my grandma's family. They're from the United Kingdom and Canada, if that's relevant, and most of the items in the box are from the early to mid-1900s. The central circle is covering a spring so it can be pressed down. Does anyone know what it is? The item you've discovered is a coin or token holder, a practical accessory used in the 19th and early 20th centuries to carry coins or transit tokens conveniently. These holders were often worn on a belt or as a necklace, combining functionality with fashion. They were particularly popular among the working class and travelers who needed easy access to small denominations. The design typically featured a compartment to hold multiple coins or tokens, with a mechanism allowing the user to select a specific coin as needed. In the United States, during the 19th century, women often used small, compact coin holders that included a mirror, a compartment for powder, a money clip, and one or two spring-loaded coin holders. What is this object found on the side of the road? It has a handle and a ball on the end with spikes. It's very decorative, fairly lightweight, and about 15 inches long, with the spiky ball being about 6 inches. The spikes appear to be glued on, and the entire object looks like it's made of wood. The object you've found appears to be a ceremonial mace, similar to the bulava of the Ukrainian Cossacks. The bulava has been a significant symbol in Ukraine for centuries, dating back to the 13th century. Initially a weapon, it evolved into a symbol of authority and power, particularly during the 16th to 18th centuries. During this time, Cossack officers would present the bulava to the elected hetman, the military leader and head of the Cossack state. The role of the hetman was pivotal in Ukrainian history, as the hetman was both the military leader and the head of the Cossack state, leading the Cossacks, a group of warriors and free people. In modern times, the bulava continues to represent the authority of the state, now serving as the ceremonial mace of the President of Ukraine. The presidential bulava is made of gold-plated gilded silver and is fitted with a total of 64 emeralds and garnets mounted in gold. This massive object has raised questions for many years. I found it in the attic. It's a wooden item with a handle protruding from the side. The top also has something like a handle, and the bottom is surrounded by a metal ring. It looks quite old and heavy, clearly made for some specific purpose. The object you found is likely an antique oakwood battering ram, which was commonly used by firefighters and sometimes by police in the late 1800s. These iron-bound oak logs with turned handles were designed to break down doors quickly, particularly during fire rescues or police raids. In order to add extra weight and improve its fire resistance, these battering rams were often soaked in water before use. The soaking process also helped keep the iron bindings tight, which was essential for the ram's effectiveness. These tools were very efficient, as a single hit with the battering ram was enough to break down a door, much faster than attempting to kick it down, which would typically require 2 or 3 hits. The battering ram also had the advantage of being safer, as kicking a door could provoke gunfire from suspects inside who might start shooting through the door. What is this pendant with a secret compartment? It's about the size of a 50-cent coin and quite heavy. It opens like a regular pendant, but inside there's a small compartment with holes in it. This object is most likely a vinaigrette, a small container that was commonly used during the Victorian era. It was designed to hold aromatic substances such as smelling salts or perfumes. Vinaigrettes were often attached to a chatelaine, a decorative clip worn on a belt with chains. During the 18th and 19th centuries, vinaigrettes were popular due to the belief that certain scents could have medicinal benefits, particularly in crowded urban environments where unpleasant odors were common. The small compartment inside typically held a sponge soaked with vinegar or perfume, and the user could open it to inhale the scent, which helped temporarily get rid of bad smells or alleviate symptoms like dizziness and nausea. The use of vinaigrettes declined by the early 20th century as perfumes became more accessible and urban sanitation improved, reducing the need for personal air fresheners. What is this instrument in a wooden box? I found it in my garage. The box is about 5 inches tall, 3 inches wide, and feels very dense. There's a latch on the side to hold the wooden lid down. The lid is about 1 inch deep to accommodate the buttons and gauge inside. The object you found is most likely a motorized timer, which might look similar to a typical clock but works quite differently. This timer was probably used in older electromechanical systems. Before transistors became widespread, electromechanical machines performed many of the tasks that computers now perform. These systems relied on a combination of switches, motors, and relays instead of transistors. By connecting the timer to one of these switches or relays, it would measure how long a particular switch remained on, or how much time passed between two switch activations. This particular timer likely measured short time intervals, such as those used for engine ignition timing or in electromechanical devices like alternators. What is this item that looks like a necklace? I found it on the ground, and I'm curious about the markings on it and why it's shaped this way. It's about 1.5 inches in size and clearly made to be worn as a necklace. The item you've found is a piece from a linotype machine, specifically a matrix used in the typesetting process. The first linotype machine, invented by Ottmar Mergenthaler in 1886, revolutionized printing by casting entire lines of type at once, significantly speeding up the production of newspapers and books. This invention led to the widespread adoption of the technology, and many linotype machines were used in print shops across the world. The matrix you have is part of the machine's magazine, which held the molds for each character. When a key was pressed, the corresponding matrix was selected and used to cast a line of type. These matrices were typically made of brass and were essential for the machine's operation. After the linotype machine was phased out in favor of newer technologies, many of these matrices were repurposed as souvenirs or jewelry, such as keychains, due to their historical significance and unique design. This practice has become a niche market, with artisans creating various items from these pieces. A friend of mine found this in an old barn in Connecticut. It's made of metal and wood, and the handle advances and retracts the metal part. It looks like a tool, but I'm not sure what it's used for. Can anyone help identify it? The object you found is a wagon jack, used for lifting wagons and carriages. This particular design, patented by Marshall on August 27, 1878, represented a significant advancement in wagon jack technology. Marshall's design made the device more durable and self-locking, allowing it to lift a vehicle with greater control and enabling repairs to be made by a single person. This made it much easier for farmers and carriage owners to perform simple repairs or wheel changes. The jack works by first raising the handle until it reaches an angle of about 30 degrees, which lowers the stair-step mechanism. After positioning the jack under the axle, the handle is pushed down, lifting the axle by about 2 inches. As the axle is raised, the design of the jack causes it to lock automatically, holding the weight securely without the need for the operator to keep the handle pressed down. I found this object in my grandfather's basement. He was a chemist, and it looks like some kind of telescope, as it has numbers when you look through the eye. Could this be a measurement tool? The object you found is a refractometer, a device used to measure the refractive index of a sample. The refractive index is an important property that indicates how light bends as it passes through a material. Refractometers are commonly used in laboratories to analyze substances, such as liquids or solids, by observing the angle at which light refracts when passing through the sample. This information is often used in fields like chemistry, biology, and the food industry to determine the concentration of various components in a mixture. Refractometers were originally developed in the 19th century and became widely used in the early 20th century in both laboratory and field settings for various applications, from testing the sugar content in beverages to determining the purity of chemicals. The numbers you see through the eye are likely the scale used to determine the refractive index of the sample being observed. What is this metal tapered object with a wooden handle? The stamp on the metal reads, James Swan Company, Extra USA. It has been passed down in my family, and I come from a town that is best known for being the first to strike crude oil. Both sides of my family worked on oil derricks and pumps. Can anyone help identify this item? The item you found is a bung auger, a specialized tool used to create holes in barrels for inserting bungs. The stamp, James Swan Company Extra USA, indicates that it was manufactured by the James Swan Company, a renowned American tool manufacturer founded in 1877. James Swan, originally from Scotland, immigrated to the United States in 1854, where he worked at various foundries before establishing his own company in Seymour, Connecticut. His company became known for producing high-quality edge tools, including augers, chisels, and gouges. The bung auger was essential in the cooperage industry, where barrels were crafted for storing liquids like oil, wine, and whiskey. Its tapered design allowed for precise hole creation, ensuring a snug fit for the bung. My friend's dad used it as a boat anchor and always wondered what it was. He thought it was some part made at a General Electric aerospace plant that manufactures aviation components. This object is a rotor from a progressive cavity pump, which is commonly used in various industrial applications, including at General Electric plants. A progressive cavity pump moves fluids by using a rotating helical rotor inside a stationary part called a stator. The rotor creates sealed pockets that move the fluid smoothly through the pump. This design makes it ideal for handling thick, abrasive, or sensitive materials. The specific shape of the rotor and stator determines how much fluid the pump moves and how much pressure it can handle. Progressive cavity pumps are used in industries like oil and gas, as well as in food processing and wastewater treatment, where handling thick liquids is required. What is this small object hanging off certain streetlight poles? I've noticed it on some large ones along highways, but not consistently on every pole. It has two oval objects on each end. Does anyone know what it is? The small devices you've observed are known as Stockbridge dampers. Invented in the 1920s by George Stockbridge, an engineer for Southern California Edison, the Stockbridge damper was patented on July 3, 1928. These dumbbell-shaped devices are designed to suppress wind-induced vibrations in slender structures like power lines, bridges, and streetlight poles. The damper consists of two masses attached to the ends of a short length of cable or flexible rod which is clamped at its middle to the main cable. This configuration allows the damper to dissipate the energy of oscillations in the main cable, effectively reducing vibrations. I found this strange yellow object growing downward through the soil along the side of a riverbank in Massachusetts. It looks like Plato's spaghetti. Does anyone know what this is? The yellow object you found is a type of fungus known as Clavulinopsis fusiformis, commonly referred to as golden spindles. It is part of the clavarioid fungi group in the family Clavariaceae. This fungus forms cylindrical, bright yellow fruiting bodies that grow in dense clusters. In North America, this fungus is sometimes also called spindle-shaped yellow coral or golden fairy spindle. It was first described in England, and although it is part of a species complex, it remains unresolved. The golden spindles are typically found in areas that are not heavily disturbed by human activity, where they thrive in the organic litter of woodlands or fields. The golden spindles are not harmful and are interesting to observe, as their bright yellow color and unusual shape make them stand out in natural environments. What are these objects? I found them in an ammo box. They are small cylindrical devices with metal components. The only thing I could find out about them is that they may be used to fire mace pellets or something similar. The item you've found is likely a pen flare, which was commonly used in the 1950s and 1960s for signaling and marking positions, particularly in emergency situations. These devices typically shoot a small flare into the air to provide a visual signal. Flare pens were especially useful for spotting downed pilots and calling for help in military or wilderness settings. Some variations of these devices could be modified to shoot other items, such as mace pellets or bear bangers. Bear bangers are loud, noise-making charges designed to keep wildlife away. While modern alternatives have largely replaced them, pen flares are still used in some military applications, particularly for non-lethal warning shots or emergency signaling, especially in the Navy. What is this object? I found it among other things at my workplace. It's a small red plastic device with the words magnetize and demagnetize on it. It seems to have a mechanism for magnetizing and demagnetizing objects, but I'm not sure how it works. The object you found is a magnetizer-demagnetizer, a tool designed to magnetize or demagnetize steel tools like screwdrivers and other ferrous metals. It allows you to either add or remove magnetism from a metal object. To magnetize, simply insert the metal part into the magnetized slot and move it through the hole. To demagnetize, repeat the process with the demagnetized side. This tool is commonly used in electronics and repair work to prevent small metal parts from getting stuck or causing damage. Additionally, these tools are especially useful for tasks where magnetism might cause interference, such as working with small screws in delicate electronics or in metalworking where unwanted magnetism can attract debris. I found this strange table that looks like a small billiards table, but it doesn't have any holes, just bumpers. It seems like it could still be used for practice today. Does anyone know what this could be and how it is used? What you found is a bumper pool table, a cue sport played on a rectangular or sometimes octagonal table that features two pockets and several fixed cushioned obstacles known as bumpers. These bumpers are positioned on the table's surface, and the game involves players using cue sticks to hit balls into the pockets while avoiding the bumpers. Bumper pool is an alternative version of billiards, and while it is less well known than traditional pool, it is still enjoyed by some enthusiasts today, especially for casual play. The fixed bumpers change the dynamics of the game by creating obstacles for players, requiring precision and strategy to successfully pocket the balls. The game became particularly popular in the mid-20th century in American homes, as it was often found in basements and game rooms. Today, bumper pool tables are still used for recreational play, especially in bars, recreational centers, and private homes. What is this vintage small table found in a thrift store in Washington State? It has a torn-up fabric in the center and round shelves on both sides with holes in the bottom. It seems like it was designed for a very specific purpose, but I can't figure out what it was used for. The item you found is most likely a vintage smoking stand. These stands were common in smoking rooms and were especially popular during the height of smoking culture in the early 1900s. They often featured intricate designs and were crafted to complement the furnishings of the era. This type of furniture was specifically designed to hold various smoking accessories, such as cigars, cigarettes, and pipes, while also providing a convenient place to store tobacco, matches, and other items associated with smoking. The round shelves on the sides were likely intended to hold small glass jars for storing tobacco or cigarettes, while the hole in the center was probably designed to hold an ashtray. What is this item I found in a charity shop in Southern Ireland? The antique dealer said the metal is silver. The small dog attached to the chain looks Chinese in style, but I could be wrong. I also noticed a hole in the sphere, which doesn't seem to belong there, and it looks like something was attached to it at some point. The object you found is likely a traditional yerba mate gourd and straw, known as a mate and bombilla in Spanish. This caffeinated beverage is made from the leaves of the Ilex paraguayensis plant, native to South America. The drink is traditionally prepared by steeping the dried leaves in hot water within a hollowed-out gourd and consumed through a metal straw. The gourd, or mate, is traditionally made from a hollowed-out calabash gourd, but over time, materials such as wood, ceramic, glass, and metal have been used. The practice of drinking this beverage has been a tradition in South America for centuries, originally by the Guarani people, who lived in regions that are now part of Paraguay, Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay. Drinking it is deeply ingrained in the culture of these countries, symbolizing friendship and community. What is this metal object found in a wallet-like box labeled P51A Precision? It's marked as made in West Germany. The object consists of a strange mechanism attached to a textured surface. The object you discovered is a tool used for creating dotted or perforated lines on technical drawings. It consists of a teardrop-shaped plate to which a mechanism is attached, designed to hold a larger serrated wheel and a smaller pattern wheel. The 6 smaller wheels are numbered from 1 to 6, representing 6 possible dotting patterns. The mechanism links the wheels to a bar that holds a pen point. When the larger wheel is rolled along the edge of a T-square or straight edge, the pen point bounces up and down, making dotted lines. which were commonly used in engineering drawings. This tool was released in 1926 as part of the Excello line and sold for $5 in the Dietzken catalog. It was part of their second highest grade of drawing instruments. The instrument was used in the physics department at Kenyon College and came in a rectangular wooden box covered with black leather and lined with green velvet. What is the device depicted on this tie I got from the thrift store? It looks like some kind of metal object with two distinct sections. The upper part has a curved, suspended piece, while the lower part appears to have a pair of buttons. It's a bit hard to determine the details since it's an illustration rather than the actual object. What's pictured on your tie appears to be a leather strap suspension from a Concord stagecoach. Concord coaches were American horse-drawn vehicles commonly used as stagecoaches, mail, and hotel coaches. They were first built in the 1820s by the Agate Downing Company in Concord, New Hampshire. These coaches featured an innovative leather strap suspension system that created a rocking motion over rough roads, providing a more comfortable ride for passengers. The leather straps, known as thoroughbraces, were strong leather bands that suspended the coach body, allowing it to swing back and forth. This design helped absorb shocks from uneven terrain, making the journey smoother for both passengers and horses. I found this strange object buried about 20 feet underground in Edmonton, Canada. It weighs around 3 pounds and appears to be made of metal bits encased in an acrylic-like substance. The bottom is smooth and flat. Does anyone know what this item is and what it might have been used for? The object you found is likely orgonite, a material commonly associated with pseudoscience and alternative energy practices. The concept of organ energy was developed by Wilhelm Reich, a psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, who theorized that orgone was a universal life force. Orgonite objects are often created by embedding metal shavings, crystals, or other materials in resin. Many proponents believe these items can purify or balance the energy in their environment. The metal in orgonite is thought to attract and repel orgone energy, while the organic material, like resin, is believed to attract it. According to advocates, the more layers of metal and resin, the more powerful the effect. While the claims surrounding orgonite are not supported by scientific evidence, these objects have gained popularity in certain communities interested in spiritual or energy work. Sometimes they are buried in the ground or placed in specific locations to cleanse the energy. What is this lock with numbered terminals? When locked, all even terminals are connected, and when unlocked, all odd terminals are connected. I purchased it from the United States Air Force, along with a bulk of random aircraft parts. The object you found is likely a rotary changeover switch, a device commonly used to control multiple circuits at once in various industrial and military applications. These switches are modular, allowing for a flexible design with numerous terminals that can either connect or disconnect based on the position of the rotary dial. In aircraft, rotary switches like the one you have are used to manage various electrical systems, including lighting, avionics, and other critical components. The specific design and number of terminals can vary depending on the requirements of the aircraft's electrical system. For example, a switch with 32 terminals arranged in columns of 8 could be used to control multiple circuits simultaneously, providing redundancy and ensuring that if one circuit fails, others can take over. What is this large object spotted on a beach in New Jersey? There were 3 of them near a group of large pipes. It is about the size of 2 vans, appears to be hollow inside, and looks like it might float. The object you discovered is a debris filtration device used in beach replenishment and dredging operations. These large metal structures, often called munition screens or sand filtration baskets, are designed to filter out unwanted debris, such as rocks, shells, and even unexploded ordnance from offshore munitions dumps. Beach replenishment involves pumping sand from offshore locations onto eroded beaches. The sand is transported through large pipes, and these baskets help catch hazardous objects before they reach the shore. The process is essential for maintaining coastal environments and protecting infrastructure. Many coastal areas, including New Jersey, have used such devices, especially in locations where military testing and dumping have left remnants in the ocean. What is this object washed up on the Indian coast near Mumbai? It is made of plastic, and the legs in the image are shown for scale. The individual components appear to be lightweight plastic, though the entire item weighs approximately 132 pounds. The object is about 12 feet long, although it seems incomplete. Could this be something related to an assembly line? The object you discovered is part of a chain pump system, a type of water lifting device commonly used for irrigation. Chain pumps have been around for centuries and are still in use in some areas today. This type of pump uses a series of cups to carry water upwards as the chain rotates, and it is used in areas where traditional pumps may quickly fail due to clogging of filters and mechanical parts, as well as wear caused by abrasive particles. Chain pumps are designed to handle these conditions more effectively, as their simple mechanism reduces the risk of clogging, making them more reliable in environments where water quality is poor. Many similar devices are still in operation today, particularly in agricultural regions around Asia, though their use has declined with the advent of more modern pumping technology. What is this large object found on the beach near a lighthouse in Asturias, Spain? It seems to be some kind of giant speaker or device used to make loud noises. The object you've encountered is likely a foghorn, a loud signaling device traditionally used near lighthouses and along coastlines to warn ships of hazards, especially in poor visibility conditions like fog. These devices have a long history in maritime navigation. Foghorns operate by producing loud, low-frequency sounds that travel over great distances across the water, alerting nearby vessels to the presence of land or obstacles. The sound can vary depending on the design and type of horn, but it typically consists of either a continuous tone or periodic blasts, which may correspond to Morse code or a specific time interval. The foghorn you encountered is no longer in use. Many of these devices have been decommissioned along the northern and northwestern coasts of Spain. However, some of these devices are still in operation, such as those near Punta Gallia and Cabo Este. What is this object that looks like a pen but doesn't write? It has a sharp metal tip with no place for ink or graphite, and the tip can't be retracted or removed. The only removable part is the plastic cap. What you found is a scribe, a tool used to make permanent marks on hard surfaces such as metal, glass, or plastic. Scribes are commonly used by machinists, engineers, and even geologists, for example in fieldwork. The sharp metal tip is designed to etch the surface of the material, leaving a visible mark that won't fade like ink or graphite. This tool is especially useful for marking lines on metal before cutting, helping to ensure precision. In microbiology laboratories, scribes are also used to etch codes onto glass surfaces. The markings remain readable even after exposure to extreme heat or chemicals, making them particularly valuable in such environments. What is this plastic object found in a box of 1950s or 1960s advertising stationery? It has a diameter of about 3.5 inches, and the little red bits are on little hooks that can be removed and moved from front to back. This item is likely from a furniture shop in Fitzroy, Melbourne. The object you've found is a vintage Chopetta shopping list reminder. Manufactured in Austria from the 1940s to the 1950s, this device features a circular plastic disc with a list of common household items. Each item is associated with a corresponding slot on the outer edge, and a round plastic pin can be moved from the back to the front to indicate the items needed. This design allows users to easily mark off items as they shop, ensuring nothing is forgotten. The Chopetta shopping list reminder was patented in the United Kingdom under patent number 699066. This item was distributed as a promotional product from the 1940s to the 1960s, serving both as a functional tool and a marketing giveaway. It's possible that each store had its own version of the Chopetta, branded with their logo. What is this wooden object purchased at an antique store? It has a movable hand and numbers that go from 0 to 9. There is blue felt on the bottom, and a groove runs along the sides. The object you've purchased is likely a whist marker, a device used to keep score in the card game whist. Whist is a trick-taking card game that was popular in the 18th and 19th centuries. In whist, a trick refers to a round of play where each player plays one card, and the player who plays the highest card in that round wins all the cards played. The goal of the game is to win as many tricks as possible. Whist markers typically feature a rotating hand or pointer that moves around a dial marked with numbers from 0 to 9, making it easy for players to record the score. What is this strange framed image? I bought it around 2017 from a thrift store in Pasadena, California near Caltech. The metal frame measures 20 by 20 inches and weighs about 10 pounds. It seems like someone took the time to place the image in a heavy metal frame. The object you discovered is likely a composite of telescope images, depicting astronomical objects captured in the 1980s or 1990s. This type of imaging was common in astronomical research during that period. The technique often involved long exposures to track moving objects, such as asteroids or comets. The sharpness of the two main spots compared to the streaking stars indicates that these were the focus of the exposure. This method was particularly useful for studying objects within our solar system. Images like this were printed using silver gelatin photopaper, which was the standard method for producing large-format astronomical images before digital technologies took over in the late 1990s. The 9-panel composite suggests traditional photographic techniques were used to capture and print the image. Such images were often kept in observatories or private collections of astronomers. What are these metal balls with slits found hanging from the concrete wall of a barn in eastern Missouri? They are located near the ground, about 12 inches off the ground, and appear to have been cast into the concrete foundation during construction. The object you discovered is likely a counterweight used in a gate mechanism. It may have been used in the mechanism of a barn door or any other gate. These weights were commonly used to help gates close smoothly and automatically. The weight would attach to a chain running through the slot, with a bolt locking it in place. The weight pulls on the chain, helping to swing the gate closed, and the slot keeps the weight steady on the chain, reducing movement. This kind of mechanism is less common today, as lighter and cheaper spring closers have replaced them. Because of this, it's possible that it was hung on the wall as a decorative item. What is this wooden object resembling a club with multiple rows of carved triangular patterns? It was supposedly found next to a deceased Japanese soldier at Okinawa in 1946. The object you found appears to be a Samoan war club. During World War II, many United States soldiers brought home clubs like these from the Solomon Islands. These clubs often came with stories, like the one about the Japanese soldier, but that is not at all true. No Japanese soldier carried anything beyond their issued clothing, weapons, and other equipment. These clubs were typically made for sale to tourists or soldiers and were popular souvenirs. A Samoan war club was more often a ceremonial item or a trophy. The craftsmanship of these clubs varies, but they typically feature carved geometric patterns and serrated edges, which are not just decorative, but also functional. What is this metal object found while cleaning out the house of a World War II veteran? It was discovered in the rafters of the basement. The veteran, now 93 years old, spent a lot of time in France and Germany. The item you've found is a Bermuda carriage bell, a type of mechanical bell that was commonly used in horse-drawn carriages and early automobiles as an audible signal. This type of bell was designed to be foot-operated, with the plunger extending through the floor of a vehicle, allowing the driver to activate it with ease. Bermuda carriage bells were widely produced in the late 19th and early 20th centuries by manufacturers like Bevan Brothers Manufacturing Company and Gong Bell Manufacturing Company, both based in East Hampton, Connecticut. These bells were typically made of brass or steel and were known for their clear, resonant sound. Over time, they were used not only in carriages but also in early automobiles, serving as a warning signal for pedestrians and other vehicles. By the mid-20th century, these bells gained popularity among automobile enthusiasts as a unique alternative to traditional horns. Interestingly, a Bermuda carriage bell was even used to create the famous daily double sound effect in the original version of the game show Jeopardy! Hosted by Art Fleming. What is this device integrated into the kitchen sink? It is in a house built in 1955 in Colorado, which was last sold in 1972 and appears to have had no significant upgrades since then. Could it be some kind of water heater? The device you found is called an Electro Sink Center, an innovative kitchen appliance produced by the Electro Way Corporation in the early 1960s. This appliance combined several kitchen functions into one convenient integrated unit, built directly into the kitchen sink. First marketed around 1963, it quickly gained attention for its futuristic design and multifunctionality, aligning perfectly with the post-war vision of modern domestic convenience. The ElectroSync Center wasn't simply a water heater, it featured push-button controls for hot and cold water, adjustable water pressure and temperature, and even an ultraviolet deodorizer and sanitizer for dishes. Additionally, this unique appliance included multiple kitchen gadgets such as a blender, mixer, juicer, salad maker, and ice cream maker, all conveniently operated right at the sink. At the time, this device represented the peak of technological innovation for home kitchens, promising to simplify household tasks and save space by integrating numerous appliances into one central location. However, due to its complexity and relatively high cost, originally priced around $823, it was considered a luxury and never achieved widespread adoption. I found this tool along with some measuring devices. It has an octagonal piece that rotates, and the other side is entirely made of brass. There are no visible markings except for a pie-shaped cutout. It came in a faux leather carrying case. Does anyone know what this tool is used for? The tool you found is a Magnaflux pi field indicator, also known as a pi gauge. It is used in magnetic particle inspection to check the direction of a magnetic field when looking for cracks or flaws in metal objects, especially those made of iron or steel. The tool consists of 8 metal sections arranged in a circle with small gaps between them. When placed on a magnetized surface and sprinkled with magnetic powder, the powder gathers along the lines where the magnetic field is strongest. This allows inspectors to see if the field is properly aligned for detecting any defects in the material. It is commonly used in industries like railroads and manufacturing, where strong magnets help test metal parts for hidden cracks. The pi gauge does not measure the strength of the magnetic field, but confirms its direction. By adjusting the magnetic field as needed, inspectors can ensure the material is being tested in the most effective way. I found this unusual silver and leather item among some discarded objects near community bins years ago. The larger metal ring has a barely visible 925 stamp, indicating sterling silver, along with the word Jewess. The cone-shaped piece slides up and down the string and fits over the padded leather section, which is stuffed with foam and covered with red fabric. The cone has 4 metal leaves and 4 small rings, while 2 more rings are attached to the bottom by string. I can't figure out what this was used for. Does anyone know its purpose? The item you've discovered is a Sami needle case, traditionally used by the Sami people to store sewing needles. These cases are typically handcrafted from materials such as reindeer antler, bone, or wood, making them both functional and decorative. The Sami, indigenous to Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia's Kola Peninsula, have a rich cultural heritage, with needle cases being an essential part of their traditional attire. They are typically worn on a belt, ensuring that sewing tools are always within reach for mending clothing or gear during daily tasks or travel. The design of your needle case, featuring silver elements and marked with 925 in Yules, suggests that it was crafted by Yules Silver Gallery. Established in 1959 in Kautokeino, Norway, Yules Silver Gallery is well known for creating jewelry and silver items inspired by Sami culture. What is this device mounted on the side of a house? The front panel has the patent number 2989267, but a Google search didn't return any results. There is a crank handle on the side that appears to roll something in and out of the device. It is made of metal on the outside, with what looks like a rubber material coming out of the slit. It is about 12 inches long. The object you found is a retractable clothesline, a space-saving drying solution that became popular in the mid-20th century. The patent number 2989267, visible on the device, corresponds to a clothes drying unit patented in 1961 by Jacob Maybaum. These devices were designed to be mounted on walls, allowing users to pull out a clothesline when needed and retract it back into the casing when not in use. Retractable clotheslines were widely used in homes, particularly in areas with limited outdoor space. They were manufactured by several companies, including those specializing in home utility solutions. The design was particularly favored for its convenience and durability, providing a simple yet effective way to dry clothes without taking up permanent space. I received it as a Christmas gift years ago in a plain black box with no name or text, and I don't remember who gave it to me. It is about 6 inches long and has the word Klaas on it, which, as far as I know, is a tractor company. The tool has a hammerhead, a claw, and what looks like a bottle opener at the bottom. The item you received as a gift is quite interesting. At first, I thought it was a knotter, a crucial component in hay balers used in agriculture. Knotters are mechanical devices that tie bales of hay or straw using twine. They work by looping and securing the twine tightly around the bale, ensuring it stays compact and easy to transport. However, after looking further into it, I discovered that this is actually a bottle opener created to commemorate Klaas's 100-year jubilee. This special edition item was designed as a tribute to the company's history and was made to resemble the knotter mechanism that played a significant role in its success. This collector's item is made from stainless steel and functions as both a corkscrew and a bottle opener, seamlessly integrated into the shape of the original knotter. Even the knotter head is movable, just like in the real mechanism. The knotter bottle opener received the Promotional Gift Award 2014 in the Custom-Made Designs category thanks to its high-quality appearance, stylish design, and strong symbolic value. I found several of these at a military shooting range. They are made of metal and each has a fairly sharp pin in the center. The range is used for various types of ammunition, including grenades, rifles, and machine guns. Several experienced people were there, but none of us could positively identify what it belonged to. Does anyone know what this object is? The item you found is a safety pin from a 120mm mortar round. Before firing, this pin is removed to arm the fuse and prepare the round for launch. It plays a crucial role in ensuring the safe handling and transportation of the round before it is ready for use. The 120mm mortar is a widely used heavy infantry weapon, designed for indirect fire support. One of the most common fuses used with these rounds is the M734 multi-option fuse, which allows for different detonation modes, including proximity airburst, near-surface, impact, and delayed burst. The 120mm mortar system has been in service for decades and is widely used by military forces around the world. These safety pins are discarded after use, which explains why numerous pins can be found in areas where mortars are regularly fired. What kind of cabinets are these? They look like a museum or archival version of an apothecary cabinet, made of wood with brass handles. These cabinets are a type of apothecary cabinet traditionally used in pharmacies to store and organize medicinal ingredients. The cabinets in the photograph are part of the History of Pharmacy Museum at the University of Arizona's College of Pharmacy. Apothecary cabinets like these were once a standard feature in pharmacies around the world. Before the mass production of prepackaged medications, pharmacists compounded medicines by hand, measuring specific ingredients from individual drawers. These cabinets played a crucial role in keeping pharmaceutical ingredients organized and easily accessible. The History of Pharmacy Museum at the University of Arizona showcases various artifacts from the 1800s through the 1950s, illustrating the evolution of pharmaceutical practices over time. Today, apothecary cabinets are highly sought after as antiques, with some repurposed for home decor due to their unique craftsmanship and vintage aesthetic. I found this ceramic ornament that looks like a bell, but it only makes a small clunk sound instead of ringing. The only markings are the characters shown in the photograph. There's nothing printed or etched on the underside. It seems to be made of pottery, possibly porcelain, and the sticks through the handle at the top appear to be some kind of reeds bound together with a papery ribbon. Does anyone know what this is? The object you found is a Chinese good fortune wishing pot, also known as a dream jar. Wishing pots have been part of Chinese culture for centuries, serving as vessels for personal dreams, hopes, or blessings. They are commonly used in traditional Chinese festivals and ceremonies. One well-known practice takes place during the Lunar New Year, when people write wishes for the coming year and place them inside the jar. This tradition symbolizes planting the seeds of future success and happiness. The practice is rooted in the broader Chinese belief that physical objects can attract good fortune and positive energy. I found these unusual scissors at a street market in Italy. I have no idea what they were used for. Does anyone know their purpose? The unusual scissors you discovered are actually a shotgun cartridge cutter, a tool used in the past for reloading shotgun shells. In the past, shotgun shells were made from waxed paper tubes with a brass base. To reload these cartridges, individuals would recycle the brass base and replace the paper tube. The cartridge cutter facilitated this process by allowing users to cleanly remove the spent paper tube from the brass base. I found this tool in my great-grandfather's old tool chest. It's about 7 inches long and has 10 metal prongs extending from the handle. Does anyone know what this tool is? The tool you found is a vintage carbon scraper. It was primarily used for maintaining early gasoline engines, specifically for removing carbon buildup and combustion deposits from cylinder heads and ports. These tools were essential for mechanics and engineers in the early to mid-20th century, helping to keep engines running efficiently by preventing carbon accumulation. As technology advanced, manual scrapers like this became less commonly used, gradually replaced by wire wheels, drills, and die grinders for cleaning engine components. What is this game? It came with a pool table I bought, but I don't think it has anything to do with pool. It has numbered chips from 1 to 16, some numbers written as words, and a big red cup that seems to be used for shaking them. Does anyone know what this game is or how to play it? This game is called Kelly Pool, also known as P-Pool or Pill Pool. It was invented in Chicago in 1893 by Callistus Kelly Mulvaney, and it became especially popular across America during the early to mid-20th century. The rules are pretty simple. Players draw numbered chips called Ps from a special shaker, and each player keeps their number secret. The goal is to pocket the pool ball, matching your secret number, but there's one important rule. Kelly Pool is a rotation game, meaning players must always hit the lowest numbered ball on the table first, until they have an opportunity to legally pocket their own secret ball. Although it was popular, Kelly Pool had a controversial reputation because of its association with gambling, and playing it was even banned in some places, such as Montana, until 1964. What is this strange device that looks like an old telephone? It has a rotary dial, but there's no speaker or handset, just one non-removable cable with a connector at the end. The only marking on it says "Made in Germany." This device is a rotary dial numeric keypad, essentially an input peripheral similar to a modern numeric keyboard, but from an earlier era. It connects via a 5-pin DIN connector, which predates the more common PS2 and USB connections we're familiar with today. It was typically used to input numbers into computers, modems, fax machines, or other electronic equipment that required rotary pulse dialing. The dial converted each number into electrical pulses, which the connected device then interpreted. Such peripherals were commonly used in telecommunications and computing from the 1960s to the early 1980s. However, without additional context or hardware, it's difficult to determine exactly which specific device this keypad was originally connected to. I rented a cabin for the weekend and found this chain hanging from a handle. Is this some kind of fire tool or just a decoration? The item you've come across is known as a zanjir, a tool used in self-flagellation rituals by certain Shia Muslim communities during mourning ceremonies. This practice involves participants striking themselves with chains or swords to commemorate the martyrdom of Hussein ibn Ali and his companions at the Battle of Karbala. It's important to note that while this ritual is observed by some, it has been met with criticism and is considered forbidden by certain Shia clerics due to its self-harm nature. Some have speculated that the zanjir may have originated from agricultural tools used for threshing grains and beans, similar to flails. However, there is no direct historical evidence confirming this connection. Depending on the context and region, the zanjir may have had various uses, ranging from practical household applications to its later ritualistic significance. I found this brass object, about 6 inches long, while going through my grandpa's things after he passed. At first, I thought it was a pipe because of its shape, but there is no continuous airway. The dragon head on what I assumed was the bowl hinges, open to reveal an empty cavity, and the head of a small brush that runs through the length of the piece. If it's not a pipe, does anyone know what it is? What you found is a yatate, a traditional Japanese portable writing set. Historically, yatate were used from the Kamakura period beginning in the late 12th century and became especially popular during the Edo period from the 17th to the 19th century. They were practical tools for travelers, merchants, and samurai who needed a convenient way to write on the go. Unlike traditional inkstones, which required grinding solid ink with water, the yatate contained ink-soaked cotton in its small compartment. By touching a calligraphy brush to the cotton, one could ink the bristles with reduced risk of dripping or spilling ink, making it a cleaner and more efficient alternative. The brush was stored inside the shaft, while the compartment under the dragon head was designed to keep the ink-soaked cotton from drying out. The intricate dragon motif on your yatate suggests that it may have belonged to someone of high status. Dragons were often used in Japanese art to symbolize strength, protection, and wisdom. Yatate also became a symbol of literacy and refinement. They were often gifted to scholars and officials, representing the importance of education and culture. I saw this unusual device at a Goodwill store. It has a brown plastic body with a black knob and a metal mechanism at the top. When I spin the black knob, the metal hook rotates. I have no idea what it's used for. Does anyone know what this device is? What you found is a vintage buttonholer attachment, a device designed to create buttonholes using a standard sewing machine. Before the 1970s, most household sewing machines didn't have a built-in buttonhole stitch. To address this, companies developed attachments like this one, making it easier for people to sew precise buttonholes without manual measuring and stitching. One of the most well-known manufacturers of buttonholers was the Greist Manufacturing Company. They produced attachments for Singer and other leading sewing machine brands from the 1940s to the 1980s. Buttonholers often came in compact cases with various templates for different buttonhole sizes and shapes, adding versatility to their use. These attachments became incredibly popular among home sewers, offering both convenience and professional quality results. I bought this wooden box at a yard sale in Corbridge, England, but the seller didn't know what it was. It has no markings or writing, and its shape somewhat resembles a telephone. The inside is hollow, so something could be stored in it, but I'm not sure what. I even thought it might be a doorstop, but I haven't found anything similar. Does anyone know what this is? The wooden box you purchased is likely an antique tinderbox, a container historically used for storing materials to start fires before the invention of modern matches. Tinderboxes were essential household items from ancient times until the 19th century. They typically contained flint, fire steel, and tinder, materials like sawdust, moss, or other easily flammable substances. A spark would be introduced to a small pile of tinder, and by blowing gently on it, enough embers would form to ignite small sticks or kindling. Considering the origin of your box from Corbridge in northeast England, it's possible that it was used in the coal mining industry during its 19th century peak. Coal mining was one of the region's major industries. In underground environments, using tinder for fire starting may have been a safer option compared to matches due to the presence of flammable gases like fire damp. Unlike matches, which can ignite accidentally, tinder stored in a box would not catch fire on its own. What is this small wooden box with tiny dolls inside? My grandmother had it on her cabinet, and I think she bought it in Japan many years ago. There are no markings on the back, just some Japanese characters on the front. Does anyone know what this is? What you found is a display representing the 7 lucky gods, known in Japan as Shichifuku-jin. These gods are iconic figures in Japanese folklore, each symbolizing a specific form of good fortune or blessing. The tradition of the 7 lucky gods dates back to Japan's Muromachi period, which lasted from the 14th to the 16th century and gained further popularity during the Edo period, from the 17th to the 19th century. The 7 lucky gods include Ebisu, the god of fishermen and commerce, Daikokuten, the god of wealth and agriculture, Bishamonten, the god of warriors, Benzaiten, the goddess of knowledge, arts, and beauty, Fukurokuju, the god of longevity and wisdom, Jirojin, another god associated with longevity, Hotei, the god of happiness and abundance. These figures are often depicted together, symbolizing a well-rounded blessing for all aspects of life. In many Japanese households, especially around the New Year, miniature sets of the 7 lucky gods are displayed to bring good fortune. My boss, who collects vintage items, gave me a mission to identify this device. It's about 1 foot tall and nearly 2 feet wide at the base. It can plug into the wall, but it no longer works, so I wasn't able to test it. The metal disc on the front swivels, but I have no idea what the device was used for. Does anyone know what this is? This device is an atoms retouching machine, a specialized tool used in the early to mid-20th century for photo retouching. Before the digital era, photographers and photo studios relied on machines like this to manually enhance and correct negatives. Developed by the Adams Retouching Company, this device helped photographers meticulously adjust details, remove imperfections, and improve the overall appearance of photographs. The machine worked by illuminating the negative from behind while the user viewed it through a magnifying lens. The rotating metal disc allowed adjustments to the intensity and angle of the light, making blemishes and imperfections more visible for precise retouching. Photographers used fine brushes and special dyes to make corrections directly on the film. This level of manual work required significant skill and patience, and it was a common practice in professional portrait studios to ensure clients received flawless prints. Adams retouching machines were particularly useful for tasks like smoothing skin tones, reducing wrinkles, or removing stray hairs. This object washed up on the beach in Montauk. It appears to be a large, heavily corroded mechanical piece, possibly made of metal, with what looks like circular segments or gears. Does anyone know what it is? The object you discovered appears to be a heavily corroded anchor windlass, a mechanical device traditionally used on ships to manage the raising and lowering of anchors. Anchor windlasses are integral to a vessel's anchoring system, utilizing a notched wheel to engage the anchor chain or rope, thereby controlling the anchor's deployment and retrieval. They are typically categorized into two main types, horizontal and vertical. Horizontal windlasses feature an above-deck gearbox and motor assembly with a horizontal shaft, while vertical windlasses, or capstans, have a vertical shaft with the motor and gearbox situated below deck. Judging by its structure and design, what you found is most likely a part of a horizontal anchor windlass. I came across these fabric-like notes during a demolition, along with some old money. They feature intricate designs and text, and I found them in Australia. Does anyone know what these notes are? What you found are commemorative banknotes known as Notgeld, issued in 1921 to celebrate the 700th anniversary of Bielefeld, Germany. Unlike traditional paper currency, these notes were made from fabric materials such as linen and silk, reflecting the city's textile heritage. During the early 20th century, the concept of Notgeld, or emergency money, became widespread in Germany, particularly during times of economic uncertainty. While most Notgeld was produced from paper, Bielefeld's fabric notes stood out due to their elaborate design and fine craftsmanship. Many of them showcased architectural landmarks, folkloric imagery, and symbolic motifs celebrating the city's legacy. The use of high-quality fabric not only made them durable, but also turned them into cherished souvenirs. Though they had a nominal monetary value, their primary purpose was to serve as collectible keepsakes rather than actual currency. These fabric banknotes are highly valued by collectors today, both for their artistic merit and their historical significance. I found this old cast iron device outside my apartment complex. It has a large crank handle, gears, and what looks like a pressing mechanism. Someone had thrown it out right next to the dumpster. Does anyone know what this is? The item you found is an antique cast iron sausage stuffer, manufactured by the Enterprise Manufacturing Company of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Established in 1864, Enterprise was renowned for producing a variety of household and industrial devices, including coffee mills, cherry pitters, and meat processing equipment. The company operated until 1956, when it was acquired by Silex Company. This particular sausage stuffer was designed to efficiently fill sausage casings with ground meat. The device features a large crank handle connected to a gear system, which drives a piston to press meat through a nozzle into the casing. In the years that followed, the company made significant improvements to its sausage stuffer. As described in United States Patent 793-484, granted in 1905 to inventor Michael Wenrich, the updated design featured a dual-cylinder mechanism that enabled nearly continuous operation. While one cylinder was being emptied, the other could be refilled, streamlining the stuffing process. I found this Hot Wheels accessory that takes 3 batteries. It has a small retractable piece between the 2 metal contacts and is marked with 1996 Mattel. Does anyone know what this is? What you found is a charger for the Hot Wheels motorized XV Racers, a series of motorized toy cars produced by Mattel from 1996 to 2000. These cars had built-in motors that allowed them to race along tracks or flat surfaces without the need for manual pushing. The charger, often called the power base booster, was an essential accessory for these vehicles. The charging process was simple. The car would be positioned on the metal contacts of the charger, with its retractable piece aligning to ensure a connection. Once fully charged, the car could run for a short time, adding excitement to races. I've noticed these mysterious pipes of various sizes emerging from the ground all over Sweden. They are often, but not always, located near drains. I've even asked several Swedes in academia, but no one seems to know what they are. They appear by buildings, in the middle of streets, and sometimes in the spaces between parallel roads. Does anyone know what these pipes are for? The pipes, you noticed, are ventilation pipes, commonly used in sewage systems. Their purpose is to allow gases to escape, preventing the buildup of pressure and ensuring the smooth operation of the drainage system. The curved design, often called a swan neck, helps keep rainwater, debris, and pests from entering the pipes. Ventilation is an essential aspect of sewage systems, especially in densely populated areas where maintaining airflow is crucial to prevent unpleasant odors and ensure safety. In certain cases, particularly in older urban areas, they could act as vents for underground civil defense shelters. Sweden constructed numerous bunkers during the Cold War, and adequate ventilation was necessary to sustain air quality in these shelters. The swan neck vents ensured fresh air could reach the underground spaces, making them habitable in the event of an emergency. My friend spotted this BMW with European plates and several devices attached to it, while driving around in northeast Ohio near Cleveland. It had what looked like radar or laser equipment on it. I've never seen foreign plates around here, except for Canadian or Mexican ones. Does anyone know why it might have this equipment? The car your friend saw is likely a test vehicle used by BMW for developing autonomous driving technologies. BMW employs such vehicles equipped with various sensors and cameras to collect data and test driver assistance systems across different environments. These test vehicles have been reported in multiple countries, including the United States, as part of BMW's global efforts to advance self-driving car capabilities. The presence of European plates suggests that the vehicle is part of BMW's international testing fleet. I got this at a yard sale in Massachusetts and was told it was a bad luck charm. I'm curious if anyone knows more about it. The item you've acquired is commonly referred to as an Asmat man, a hand-carved wooden figure originating from the Asmat people of southwestern New Guinea, Indonesia. Renowned for their intricate wood carvings, the Asmat create these figures to honor ancestors and embody spiritual beliefs. Each Asmat man is unique, reflecting the individual artisan's craftsmanship and the cultural significance imbued in the carving. These figures are often found at trading shops near tourist spots. In the past, they have also been carried by retailers in the United States, such as PacSun and Hobby Lobby. Despite their commercialization, these carvings retain their cultural heritage, offering insight into the Asmat people's rich artistic traditions. I found this unusual brass device at my grandmother's house. It has a hollow bauble at the top, a stick marked with small lines like a ruler, and several numbered metal loops that fit onto the lower part of the stick. The object you've come across is a Sykes' hydrometer, a scientific instrument used historically to measure the specific gravity of liquids, most commonly the alcohol content in spirits. It was developed by Bartholomew Sykes in the early 19th century and became the official standard for alcohol measurement in the United Kingdom after an Act of Parliament in 1816. For decades, this type of hydrometer was essential for excise officers, as the specific gravity helped determine the duty payable on alcoholic beverages. The set typically includes a hollow brass float marked with a graduated scale and a series of precision brass weights. These weights are placed on the stem of the hydrometer to calibrate it according to the density of the liquid being tested. The kit is usually housed in a velvet or silk-lined wooden box, like the one you found, with each component stored securely in its own compartment. Some versions also included a mercury thermometer to account for temperature variations during measurement. What is this intricately carved sphere I found at a shrine sale near Tokyo, Japan? It's made of a light-colored stone with multiple ornate layers that each move independently and appear to be carved from a single piece. The object you found is known as a Chinese puzzle ball, also referred to as a concentric ball in the West. These intricate pieces were traditionally carved from a single piece of ivory and contain multiple nested layers, sometimes as many as 30, that each rotate independently. What makes them so remarkable is not only the delicate lace-like detail carved into every layer, but also the extraordinary level of craftsmanship required to release and shape each inner sphere without damaging the outer ones. Artisans use specialized L-shaped tools of varying lengths to reach inside and carefully carve from the inside out. These puzzle balls have existed for centuries, but most of the surviving examples were made during the Chinese Republican period, between 1912 and 1949. The outer layers are typically decorated with dragons, flowers, and geometric motifs, each design carefully positioned to allow light to pass through and reveal the next layer. Dragons were especially popular, symbolizing imperial authority and good fortune. What is this large metal ring? It has 2 rows of letters on the outside that can rotate, and on the inside there's an inscription that reads Carpe Diem along with numbers, 1 through 6 on the top, and 7 through 11 on the bottom. It also has the initials SW engraved inside. The item you found is a sundial ring, a portable timekeeping device with historical significance. Its design is reminiscent of the Eleanor of Aquitaine sundial, named after the 12th century queen, who reportedly gifted such a timepiece to her husband, King Henry II of England, around the year 1152. The ring features 2 rotating bands on the outside, each marked with letters representing the months of the year. Inside, a series of numbers corresponds to the hours of the day. To use the sundial ring, you align the hole with the current month and hold it so that sunlight passes through. A thin beam of light will shine through the hole and land on one of the numbers inside the ring, indicating the current hour. We found these 2 magnetic telescoping tools with colored balls on the end among my uncle's things, but we're not sure what they are. Does anyone know what these are? The items you found are components of a magnetic hitch alignment kit, designed to assist drivers in aligning a vehicle's hitch ball with a trailer's coupler. This tool simplifies the hitching process, especially for individuals operating without assistance. The kit typically includes 2 telescoping rods with magnetic bases and brightly colored balls on top. One rod attaches magnetically to the tow vehicle's hitch and the other to the trailer's coupler. As the driver reverses the vehicle, they can observe the 2 rods through the rear-view mirror. When the colored balls align, it indicates that the hitch ball and coupler are properly positioned for connection. This method reduces the need for multiple attempts and minimizes the risk of misalignment or damage. Such alignment kits are widely available from various manufacturers and are valued for their simplicity and effectiveness in streamlining the trailer hitching process. My friend found this ultra-complex frame diagram at a Goodwill store for $2. It looks like a dense web of lines and symbols with text in both black and orange, possibly some kind of code or technical data. Anyone know what this is? What you found is a data visualization artwork by Ben Fry, mapping the assembly code of the classic Pac-Man game for the Atari 2600. This piece is part of Fry's DisMap project, where he explores how early video games were programmed by transforming raw assembly code into visual form. The diagram shows lines of assembly instructions from the game cartridge. Whenever the code includes a command that jumps from one instruction to another, such as a conditional branch, a curved line connects those points. That's why the image features so many overlapping arcs. The black columns represent sequences of instructions, while the orange segments show raw data. These data sections often contain visual elements like sprites or game tiles, and the orange blocks and dots indicate the binary values of each byte. In some cases, you can even spot bits of the game's graphics hidden within the patterns. Does anyone know what this tool is? I found it in our workshop, but no one seems to recognize it. It looks like a pair of metal pliers with a conical, textured tip and long handles. When you press the handles together, the tip only spreads open a little. The tool you found is a Stanley No. 19 lead pipe expanding pliers, patented on May 5, 1896, by John Anderson of Portland, Connecticut. These specialized pliers were designed to expand the ends of lead pipes, making it easier to connect them by creating a flared opening. The tool uses a compound lever mechanism that allows the semi-conical dies to open evenly when the handles are squeezed together, ensuring a uniform expansion of the pipe end. The patent was later acquired by the Stanley Rule and Level Company, which manufactured the tool, although it was never officially listed in their catalogs. Production likely ended by 1911, making this a rare and unusual find today. I found this strange object while cleaning out my grandfather's house. It has a wooden knob, a cast metal body, and the flat end has a hole, along with two small pins sticking out about 1/8 of an inch. The yellow paper in the background is 6 by 9 inches for scale. Does anyone know what this is? The tool you found is an antique pool table rail bolt wrench, specifically crafted for assembling and disassembling the rails of vintage billiard tables. In many antique pool tables, particularly those from the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the rails were secured using round-head bolts with two small holes. This wrench features two adjustable pins designed to fit into these holes, allowing for the proper tightening or loosening of the bolts. What is this solid brass object with a hinged lid and a central stem inside? I got it as a gift from a yard sale, but we can't figure out what it is. It's heavier than it looks and seems too heavy to be a pendant. The item you were given is an antique brass sewing etui, commonly referred to as a thimble holder. These compact cases were designed to store sewing essentials such as thimbles, needles, and thread. Often crafted in the shape of an egg, they were especially popular during the 18th and 19th centuries. Etui like this one were frequently attached to a chatelaine, a decorative belt hook or clasp worn at the waist, from which various useful household tools would dangle. Chatelaines allowed women to carry items like scissors, keys, and sewing implements in a convenient and accessible way throughout the day. I found this small, solid metal object at my grandparents' place. It looks like a pipe, but it's completely solid and non-functional. There are detailed figures on the stem, what seems to be a serpent, a mule, and an oil lamp. It's surprisingly heavy for its size. The object you've discovered is a Hindu ritual spoon known as an udharani, traditionally used during sacred ceremonies to offer substances like water or ghee into the ritual fire. This particular piece is richly decorated with symbolic elements associated with Lord Shiva, one of the principal deities in Hinduism. The serpent figure represents the cobra Vasuki, which is often shown around Shiva's neck, and symbolizes his control over danger and his protective nature. The animal that resembles a mule is most likely Nandi, the sacred bull and Shiva's loyal companion and mount, representing strength, faithfulness, and devotion. This small metal object was given to me by my dad when I was a kid. It has the words Enterosis Network on the back, and there's a small button on the front. I've tried twisting, pressing, and pulling it in every way I can think of, but it still won't open. This item is a Lucky Line key release keychain, specifically the model 42701. This compact device is designed to help organize and manage multiple sets of keys. It features a central die-cast body with 5 removable tempered steel key rings. To detach a key ring, you slide it to a notched opening and press the button, allowing for quick and easy access to individual keys without removing the entire keychain. I found this spoon-shaped metal object with a strainer on one end and a mouthpiece on the other. It's hollow, so you can blow or suck air through it. Near the top, there's a decorative element that looks like a flower with a red glass or stone set in the center. What you found is a bombilla, a specialized metal straw traditionally used for drinking mate, a herbal tea that has been deeply rooted in South American culture for centuries. Mate itself has been consumed since pre-Columbian times, but the use of the bombilla as a drinking tool is believed to have originated with the indigenous Guarani people. They developed early forms of filtering straws made from cane to avoid swallowing the leaves while drinking the infusion. By the 17th century, with the spread of mate drinking among Spanish colonists and Jesuit missionaries, the bombilla evolved into a more refined metal version. Artisans began producing bombillas from silver, from an alloy of copper and nickel known as German silver or alpaca, and later from stainless steel. The term bombilla comes from Spanish and literally means little pump. Over time, bombilla became more than just practical tools. They turned into cultural symbols. In wealthier households, elaborately decorated bombillas with ornamental stones or engravings were a sign of status and refinement. My mom found this small, rubbery black object hidden on a shelf in our house. It has a textured surface with a grid pattern and a symbol in the center that looks like a signal or sound icon. Does anyone know what this thing is? This is a microsonic grenade, a loud and downright silly device that was once sold by ThinkGeek. It was created purely for pranks, with the sole purpose of annoying friends, coworkers, or unsuspecting family members. The gadget could be tossed or hidden, and after a short timer of 5, 30, or 60 seconds, it would detonate with an ear-piercing siren reaching up to 115 decibels, about as loud as a power tool. Despite its tough appearance, it served no real purpose beyond being obnoxious. Once activated, it could only be silenced by reinserting the pin. While it was marketed as harmless fun, most people who came across it would probably agree it was more irritating than entertaining. My aunt gave me this unusual pipe, thinking it might be some kind of Native American artifact. The white parts look like porcelain, the stem is made of wood, and there are 2 soft little brushes hanging on a string. It was likely purchased outside the United States. Does anyone know what this is? What you found is a traditional German porcelain pipe, often referred to as a Tyrolean pipe or a Black Forest pipe. These ornate smoking instruments were especially popular in the 19th and early 20th centuries, particularly in regions like Bavaria, Austria, and Switzerland. The pipe consists of several distinct parts: a porcelain bowl, typically decorated with colorful hunting or rural scenes, a wind cap made of metal to prevent ash from blowing out, and a long stem made from materials like cherry wood or horn. The brush-like tufts attached to cords were purely decorative, often made from chamois or badger hair. The Y-shaped insert is a removable chamber that helps cool and filter the smoke, and the connections between the pieces are traditionally lined with cork, similar to how a clarinet is assembled. These pipes weren't just for smoking, they were also symbols of regional pride and masculinity. In some households, especially in the Bavarian countryside, such pipes were passed down through generations. My son found this using the metal detector he got for Christmas. We're not sure what this object is or what he's holding in his left hand. Any idea what it is? What your son discovered is a cast iron fire mark issued around 1848 by the Associated Firemen's Insurance Company of Baltimore, Maryland. These fire marks were affixed to buildings to indicate that the property was insured against fire damage. The mark features a fireman in high relief blowing a trumpet. In the fireman's left hand is a burning brand, a type of oil-soaked torch used by firefighters in the 19th century to light their way through dark streets before the era of electric lighting. Often made of metal and fueled by whale oil or kerosene, these torches burned brightly and served both as illumination and as a visual signal during nighttime fire responses. They were typically carried by younger members of volunteer fire companies known as torch boys, who would run ahead of the fire wagons to light the route and alert the public. The role was often considered an early step toward becoming a full-fledged firefighter. The Associated Firemen's Insurance Company operated from 1847 until it was absorbed by the Fidelity Fire Insurance Company in 1899. I found this small metal disc attached to a money clip. The center rotates, and it seems to show some kind of conversion between radians and degrees. The whole thing is just a little over an inch in diameter. Has anyone seen anything like this before? What you found is a miniature circular slide rule. It's clearly modeled after genuine circular slide rules, which were essential tools for pilots during the era of analog navigation. The markings on the disc, such as STAT and NM, refer to statute miles and nautical miles, respectively. These units are commonly used in aviation and maritime navigation, with nautical miles being the standard for air and sea travel due to their direct relationship to the Earth's geometry. Circular slide rules were invaluable for pilots, allowing them to perform a range of calculations necessary for flight planning and navigation. These included converting distances, estimating fuel consumption, determining speed, and calculating flight time. One of the most renowned examples is the E-6B flight computer, developed in the 1930s by Naval Lieutenant Philip Dalton. Introduced to the United States Army Air Corps in 1940, the E-6B became a staple in pilot training and is still used today for educational purposes. My uncle found this object washed up on the Space Coast in Florida back in the early 1990s. It's extremely light, very hard, and definitely man-made. Its texture and weight remind us of insulation material. Any idea what this is? What your uncle discovered is likely a fragment of spray-on foam insulation from a NASA launch vehicle, most probably the space shuttle's external fuel tank. NASA developed a specialized polyurethane-based foam to insulate the external tank, which stored cryogenic propellants, liquid hydrogen at 423 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit, and liquid oxygen at 297 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. This foam was crucial in preventing ice formation on the tank's surface and in maintaining its structural integrity during the intense conditions of launch. The foam was applied using both automated and manual spraying techniques, depending on the specific area of the tank. Its closed-cell structure, filled with millions of tiny bubbles, provided excellent insulation and minimized air infiltration. Despite its strength, pieces of the foam occasionally broke off during launch. This issue drew heightened attention after the Columbia disaster in 2003, when a piece of foam struck the orbiter's wing during ascent, ultimately leading to its destruction upon re-entry. In response, NASA introduced structural changes to prevent it from happening again. I found this unusual plastic object at my grandma's place. It looks like a combination of a ruler and a letter opener, but it also has these green numbered dials marked 5, 10, 20, 40, and 50. They can be turned but not removed. Does anyone know what this is? What you've discovered is a Linux letter scale, a device that combines a letter opener, a metric ruler, and a simple postal scale. It was designed by Danish engineer Freda Dueland Nielsen and patented in 1952, during a time when estimating postage at home was still a practical necessity. The plastic body includes a small slit for inserting a letter and a set of rotating knobs marked with weights, 5, 10, 20, 40, and 50 grams. To use it, you'd clip the letter into the slot and lift the device by one of the knobs. If it balanced horizontally, that meant the letter weighed approximately that amount. If it tilted forward or backward, you'd switch to another knob until it leveled out. We saw these long, spiral-shaped metal rods wrapped around power lines during a family walk. They look like stiff steel coils, twisted around the cable. Every span on this line had them, and they were evenly spaced from the poles, but not attached except by being wrapped. Does anyone know what these are? What you found are spiral vibration dampers, metal coils wrapped tightly around power lines to protect them from a specific phenomenon called aeolian vibration. This type of vibration occurs when steady wind flows across the cable and creates low-amplitude, high-frequency oscillations. Over time, these seemingly minor movements can cause fatigue in the conductor material, which may lead to breaks in the strands or failure of the connecting hardware. The spiral dampers work by changing the stiffness and mass distribution of the cable where they're installed, which helps disrupt the conditions that allow resonance to build up. Unlike larger devices like Stockbridge dampers, which I've already talked about in a previous video, these don't hang from the line, but are instead wrapped tightly around it. They're especially useful for smaller conductors or shield wires, and are often installed in locations where wind exposure is higher. I found this small brass object hidden inside an old piece of furniture from a rural area in Belgium. It has a crank on top that makes small blades extend from the bottom, and a button on the side retracts them. The blades aren't sharp, but maybe they used to be. No one I've shown it to seems to recognize it. Any idea what it is? What you've found is a scarificator, a medical instrument popular in the 18th and 19th centuries, used for bloodletting, a once common practice aimed at treating various ailments by withdrawing blood. The idea was based on the belief that many illnesses stemmed from an imbalance of the body's humors, and removing blood could help restore that balance. Scarificators were seen as a more advanced alternative to older tools like the fleam, which used individual blades to make a single incision at a time. We've already talked about fleams in one of our previous videos. I'll leave a link to it in the description if you want to check it out. Scarificators featured an internal mechanism with spring-loaded blades inside a compact brass body. When the lever on the side was pressed, several small blades snapped out from the bottom to make shallow, uniform cuts. Some models were even equipped with adjustable settings, allowing practitioners to control the depth of the incisions. Compared to the fleam, this method was quicker, cleaner, and often considered less painful. But by the late 19th century, as medical science progressed and the dangers of bloodletting became more apparent, tools like this gradually disappeared from medical practice. My grandfather gave this to my father before he passed away, and we have no idea what it is. We found it in his toolbox, and it has a sharp blade running down the middle with adjustable knobs on both sides of the handle. Any idea what this tool is used for? What you found is a draw knife, a traditional woodworking tool designed for shaping wood by shaving off thin slices. It features a sharp blade with handles on both ends, allowing the user to pull it toward themselves to remove material. Draw knives have been used for centuries in woodworking, particularly for tasks like debarking logs, shaping chair legs, or creating flat surfaces. They are especially useful for removing large amounts of wood quickly and are often employed in green woodworking. The tool is typically used in conjunction with a shaving horse, a foot-operated clamp that holds the workpiece steady while the woodworker pulls the draw knife toward themselves. We found these strange blue creatures washed up on a beach in northern New South Wales, Australia. They kind of look like anemones or jellyfish, but we'd never seen anything like them before. Do they sting, and does anyone know what they are? What you encountered on the beach is a Porpita porpita, more commonly known as the blue button. Despite its jellyfish-like appearance, it's not a single organism, but rather a colony of tiny creatures called hydrozoan polyps, all working together as one. The blue button floats on the surface of the ocean and is made up of two main parts, a central golden-brown disc called the float, and a fringe of bright blue or turquoise tentacles surrounding it. The float keeps the colony buoyant, while the tentacle-like structures are used for both feeding and defense. Each tentacle ends in clusters of specialized stinging cells known as nematocysts, which can immobilize small prey like plankton and crustacean larvae. Although these stingers are generally harmless to humans, they can cause minor skin irritation in some cases. These creatures are common in warm tropical and subtropical waters and sometimes wash up on beaches in large numbers, especially after windy weather. I found this in the attic of an old house in the Czech Republic. It's a wooden case with glass panels on all sides, and inside there's something that looks like a set of precision scales, possibly used in a laboratory or for scientific work. I have no idea what this device is. What you've discovered is an antique analytical balance, an instrument used in laboratories to measure mass with high accuracy. The design typically features a wooden case with glass panels to protect the measurement from air currents. Inside, there's a central beam with pans suspended on either side, balanced on a precise pivot. Small weights, often stored within the case, were added to counterbalance the item being weighed. By achieving equilibrium between the known weights and the sample, scientists could determine the exact mass. Some versions of these balances were adapted to measure specific gravity, the ratio of a substance's density compared to that of water. This was done by weighing the sample in air, then in water, and calculating the difference. Such measurements were vital in fields like material science and quality control. I found this piece of lead while metal detecting in England. It appears to have a Star of David on one side and the number 45 on the other. Does anyone know what this is? What you found is a lead bag seal, most likely from the late 19th or early 20th century. These seals were used to secure sacks containing goods like fertilizer, grain, or other bulk materials. The presence of the Star of David and the number 45 suggests it was part of a batch identification system. To seal the bag, a wire or cord was threaded through the top, and the lead seal was crimped tightly over it. This made it obvious if someone had tried to open the bag without permission. The Star of David was commonly used as a decorative element by different manufacturers at the time and didn't necessarily have any religious meaning. I found this mug at a dump in North Carolina. It has a cartoonish rat hugging a piece of cheese and the letters NOTR printed underneath. Does anyone know what this might represent? The symbol on your mug is associated with the National Order of Trench Rats, a lesser-known fraternal organization created by disabled American veterans of World War I. The group was formed in the early 1920s at a veteran hospital in Arrowhead Springs, California, by members of the disabled American veterans. The name Trench Rats was a reference to the rats that soldiers often encountered in the trenches of France during the war. The organization began as a way to boost morale among recovering veterans. The hospital was located in a remote mountain area, and many of the patients were ambulatory, but lacked activities or social outlets. A small group of DAV members decided to create a brotherhood with secret rituals and humorous initiation ceremonies, meant to bring laughter and companionship to those who had endured the horrors of war. What started as a light-hearted pastime quickly grew into something more meaningful. Originally, The NOTR was a secretive and honorary group that admitted only those who showed exceptional service and dedication to fellow veterans. Over time, the organization evolved into a broader philanthropic group, raising funds for disabled veterans, their families, and supporting DAV initiatives. Found this strange tool in an old house. It has two pivoting claws attached to a metal handle. Does anyone know what this tool is? What you found is a spring-loaded frog gig, a specialized hunting tool used for catching bullfrogs in shallow water. This particular type uses pivoting metal prongs that are held open and spread outward. When the central trigger section touches the target, the internal mechanism snaps the prong shut, allowing the tool to quickly grab and trap a frog with a single motion. Frog gigging is a traditional nighttime hunting activity, especially popular in the American South and Midwest. It reached peak popularity in the mid-20th century. Hunters shine a bright light along pond edges or marshes to freeze bullfrogs in place, then use tools like this to spear or grip them. Most frog gigs were designed to pierce the frog with sharp tines rather than grab it, making this version somewhat unusual. We found this small metal item in an old office desk. It has a pivot on one side and knurled rollers on the other. Nobody here knows what it is or what it was used for. Does anyone recognize it? What you found is a check protector, a small mechanical tool once used to prevent tampering with the amount written on a check. It works by rolling over the numbers with a set of knurled metal wheels, embossing or crushing the paper to make alterations nearly impossible. These devices were especially popular in the early to mid-20th century, when handwritten checks were common and check fraud was a serious concern. Businesses often used them alongside typewriters and adding machines to secure transactions. The design of your check protector closely resembles early handheld models developed in the early 1900s. For example, one described in a 1901 United States patent by Ernest Wilkins. I found this wooden tool with metal parts on both ends and a hole running through the center. It's about 6 inches long. There are two of them. One has a single metal ring at the end, and the other has 3. Does anyone know what this is? What you found is called a pern, a small, tapered weaving tool that once played an important role in the textile industry. It was designed to hold yarn in a shuttle and feed thread through a loom with each pass, helping to weave the fabric, row by row. Unlike a traditional bobbin, which spins as it releases thread, a pern stays in place. Instead of unraveling from the side, the yarn is pulled smoothly from the pointed end. This small difference had a big impact. Perns provided consistent tension, which made high-speed weaving more efficient and reduced thread breakage. Typically turned from hardwoods such as beech or maple, perns were designed to withstand the rapid movement of industrial looms. Throughout the 19th century, textile mills relied on thousands of perns each day, with workers manually loading them into looms to keep production moving. By the end of the century, machines were being produced that could automatically eject an empty pern and insert a new one without stopping the loom. I found this wooden object during a garage clear-out. It looks like some sort of offset hammer and has images printed on it. Any idea what it is? What you found is an Irish shillelagh, a wooden walking stick that also served as a fighting club. Shillelaghs were typically crafted from dense, sturdy woods like blackthorn or oak. Artisans carefully selected branches with naturally occurring large knobs at one end, shaping them into strong, durable clubs. To give these sticks their distinctive, dark, polished look, they were often dried by hanging them above a fireplace. Historically, Irish farmers and shepherds relied on these robust sticks as walking aids, especially helpful across Ireland's rugged countryside. However, shillelaghs were not only walking sticks. They were also widely used in stick fighting known as bataireacht, a method of settling disputes. Later, in the 18th and 19th centuries, when weapon ownership was restricted by British authorities, these clubs became a reliable and discreet means of self-defense. What are these metal-covered pipes sticking out of the ground at a vineyard in Mudgee? We asked a few of the vineyard staff, but none of them could tell us what they were. What you've come across are called kvevrì, traditional Georgian earthenware vessels used for making and storing wine. These egg-shaped clay jars have been at the heart of Georgian winemaking for over 8,000 years, making this practice one of the oldest wine traditions in the world. Each kvevrì is handcrafted by skilled Georgian artisans using techniques passed down through generations. The vessels are carefully built from local clay, coil by coil, dried slowly to avoid cracking, and then fired in wood-burning kilns for over a week. After firing, the insides are sealed with beeswax to waterproof them without affecting the taste of the wine. Unlike oak barrels that add distinct flavors or stainless steel tanks that block out all air, Kvevari allow for gentle, natural oxygen exchange through their porous clay walls. This subtle oxidation helps soften and mature the wine, enhancing its complexity without adding any external flavoring. Today, Kvevari winemaking enjoys global recognition as part of Georgia's rich cultural heritage. UNESCO officially listed it as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity in 2013. I found this old rusted machine on a ranch in southern New Mexico. It's about 3 feet tall, made of iron, and has a series of gears and what looks like foot pedals. Does anyone know what it was used for? What you found is the chassis of an antique sickle bar mower, likely made by the Johnston Harvester Company, a major American manufacturer of farm equipment in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. These machines were horse-drawn and used to cut hay or grass in open fields. The large gears and foot pedal-like levers were part of a gear-driven system that powered a long, bladed cutting bar called a sickle. As the mower was pulled forward, the motion of the wheels would activate the gears, which in turn moved the sickle bar back and forth to slice through vegetation. I found this old object made of hard leather, it very heavy at one end and slightly flexible near the handle. It might be from World War II era Germany, or possibly from 1950s Cleveland, Ohio. Does anyone know what this thing is? What you found is an old law enforcement weapon known as a flat sap, sometimes called a beaver tail sap. It's a type of impact weapon that was widely used by police officers, especially in the United States, during the early to mid-20th century. Inside the wide, rounded end, often referred to as the business end, there's typically a dense weight made of lead or lead shot. Saps like this were most often used to strike areas of the body that would disable a suspect without causing lasting harm, such as the arms, legs, or shoulders. However, when used on the head, they could cause severe concussions or even death. That's one of the key reasons police departments started phasing them out in the late 1960s. By the 1990s, nearly all American law enforcement agencies had banned their use entirely. I found this wand-like object in the woods in Michigan. It was just lying there with nothing else around. Does anyone know what it is? What you've found is a turkey call striker, a handheld tool used by hunters to mimic the sounds of a wild turkey. It's part of what's called a pot-style or slate turkey call. The hunter holds the striker and drags or taps its tip across a circular surface, often made of slate, glass, or ceramic, to produce different turkey vocalizations. These strikers are usually made of wood, carbon, or composite materials. The specific sound depends on the type of wood and the shape of the tip. For example, hickory produces a sharp, high-pitched tone, while softer woods create gentler, more subtle sounds. What is this small metal kit with brushes and tools that was found in a World War II veteran's toolbox? He was known to love woodworking. Does anyone know what it was used for? The item you've found is a vintage match safe, also known as a Vesta case. The term Vesta comes from the Roman goddess of hearth and home, symbolizing fire and domestic life. When friction matches became widely available in the early 19th century, Vesta cases followed soon after, offering a safe and stylish way to carry matches in your pocket. Many were equipped with a built-in striker, usually on the bottom or side of the case. This specific example, made from brass and decorated with a fleur-de-lis emblem, was likely produced between the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The fleur-de-lis design has strong historical roots, often associated with French royalty and symbolizing purity and light. I found this leather strap with 2 cup-shaped metal pieces attached. They look like they might be made of lead, and they have holes in them. It was found in a 16th century English farmhouse. Any idea what this might be used for? What you found is an old horn trainer, a device used in livestock farming to shape the growth of a young cow's horns. These tools were typically strapped to the animal's head using leather with cup-shaped metal ends applying pressure on each horn as it developed. The goal was to guide the horns to grow in a specific direction, often for safety, aesthetics, or practical reasons. While most horns naturally grow outward, sometimes they could curve dangerously inward toward the animal's face or body. Devices like this helped correct that. Horn trainers like this were especially common from the late 19th to early 20th century. Today, horn trainers are no longer in use. I saw this pink-colored lake from a plane while flying over West Africa, on a route from Istanbul to Senegal. It looks strikingly red from above. What is this lake? This is Lake Retba, also known as Lac Rose, located just outside Dakar, Senegal. This striking pink lake owes its vivid color to microorganisms and algae that thrive in its hypersaline environment. These organisms produce natural pigments that tint the water pink or even reddish purple, especially during the dry season when salinity levels are at their highest. The lake is shallow and safe for swimming. Local residents still harvest salt directly from the lake by hand using boats and baskets, following a method that has been passed down through generations. What are these massive clay structures with straw roofs seen at the beginning of the Magnificent Seven? They appear in a northern Mexican village. Could they be for food storage? These are traditional granaries, most likely inspired by or modeled after those found in certain regions of Sudan, particularly Darfur. In the farming villages of southern West Darfur, structures like these have been used for centuries. They were built from local materials, millet stalks, grass, and wood, and raised off the ground on wooden posts to protect the grain from moisture, insects, and rodents. The round walls were woven from dried plant material, and the high, thatched roof protected the contents from sun and rain while allowing air to circulate. Inside, families stored dried grain, usually sorghum or millet, for up to 2 or even 3 years, helping them weather droughts and poor harvests. Similar structures have appeared in hot regions around the world, from West Africa to Southeast Asia. In the last video, I asked you to guess what this curved wooden object might be used for. Everyone had great guesses, and many of you got it right. This item is used to pull out a hot oven rack. Thank you to everyone who participated and shared your guesses. A special shout out to Thomas Time for being the first to correctly identify it. All right, it's time for another mystery item. Take a look at this strange wooden object that looks like a hammer. What do you think it's used for? Leave your guesses in the comments, and I'll reveal the answer in the next video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Your support motivates me to create more videos. See you next time.